Hi, Suzi.
Hello, it is.
So good to have you again. I really feel coming home when I even thought about our conversation. So
I love that. I love
excited. Today I want to touch the subject of how to ask good questions. I know it sounds a little judgmental, good, bad, but there's questions who are, I don't know, just question, yes, no, maybe, why. And there's question of almost like a key to a door that you ask it and then a whole door is opening. And so I guess the question I'm going to start with is, what if a question is not meant to produce an answer, but to open the next step?
So, first of all, who are you?
Good question. So, yes, let's introduce us.
It opens the door to the next step.
So I'm going to introduce us. Open the door. I'm Iris Shacham. I'm a family constellation facilitator and an artist, and I sit with you, Suzi. And I would like to introduce you as a public speaker, as a writer, and as a influence figure in family constellation field, but also just as a human being that is going to many spaces and present to people. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. I used to say, this is a little before some people's time, but I used to say, I want to be the Bruce Springsteen of family constellations.
Wow.
Not that I need to be as famous as Bruce Springsteen, but that I don't want to be confined to insular circles, because for me, family constellation is really for everybody, little bits and whole pieces, however people want to use it, and that it's really meant to go out, not stay in, like, well, like whatever, I don't know. But, so anyway, so I like that. Thank you.
Now look at you and I see something like that. Yeah. Um, I, when I study with you and watched you, I'm always amazed by the question you ask. And I start to wonder what makes it so valuable? What's going on there? And it really changed my concept of questions, because I used to search for answer when I asked the question. And for me, it was more like, I'm actually not going to look for an answer. I'm going to look for what is going to open so we can land in a new space. And I really want to ask you, maybe I'm going to say that when we do a constellation, somebody enters and there's the space until the constellation starts. And I'm very curious about your process from this minute to this minute, and what question what's your process?
I don't know. Somebody else has to tell me, but I get your question. And first of all, let's look at the word evocative for just a second. So some people are very good at provocative questions, those are questions that are really about them, about the questioner, right? They're not actually seeking answers either. They're a voice wanting to hear one's own voice. That's what a provocative question does. I think that evocative questions are questions that are already there in a way. And as a facilitator, I'm sort of reporting the question that is already there. It's like right right between us. For me, the difference, as you described, from here to when the constellation begins, I believe the constellation begins over here.
Mm,
And that this, all of it, whether it's 30 seconds or 5 minutes, and it really should not even be 5 minutes, but that is all a part of the constellation. People are quickly, both facilitator and client, are finding their rhythm with one another. And in finding their rhythm with one another, they're beginning a collaboration. And a constellation for me is primarily a collaboration. So I am in that moment. What's my process? I am in that moment, in those moments, paying attention, first of all, like to the air between us. Like, does it feel like there's only a little bit of air and I'm already gasping and maybe we're competing for what air there is and there isn't enough? Or is it really spacious and I feel myself able to sit back easily and I watch the other person sit back easily? So really, what is going on environmentally, ecologically, right? By the time the person sits down, and so I'm very, I always say I'm very attuned. Who knows if I'm attuned? You tell me if I'm attuned, but I'm very attentive. I'm very attentive to how people walk, how people sit, whether people look at me or look away from me. I'm attentive to, on Zoom, I said this the other day, what's behind people, how they are dressed, how they hold themselves. All of that, all of that is information that doesn't require a question from me, right? So by the time I get to articulating something, asking a question, it is already there in a way. Why? Why are you so sad? Right? What, or even something like, tell me about your mother, right? Even that kind of question for me is not a constellation question. It's a question that's right there between us because of something you said or even something you emailed. Like when people email me, constellation begins right there.
mm,
I already know a tremendous amount by the length of the email, the tone of the email, how people I'm gonna frighten people so they're not gonna email me anymore. How they sign off, how they what they call me. Do they use my name? Do they not use my name? Like, all of that stuff is beginning to populate and animate the space we're gonna inhabit. So the evocative question, and I love your kind of articulation of it, is a question that's already there that begins to orient us to our collaboration. It opens not into a big field for me, it kind of like opens to we're going to cross a bridge now
mhm,
into a place neither of us is used to,
mm,
right? And if my client is the guide, which is something I learned very often, no, early, and I'm still learning in a way, like, "Oh, what did that mean to me 10 years ago? What did it mean to me 10 weeks ago? What does it mean to me now?" Like something slightly more. So if the client is my guide, then the question that I ask is not of them, it's with them.
tell me more.
Yeah, so it's funny, I was gonna say, and sometimes the question appears to other people as because it's with somebody, sometimes the question seems like wow, how did she ask that question? Like, how how did she have the nerve to ask that question, right? But for me, again, because it's already there and the client's already telling me in a way, I'm exhausted. I've looked at this the same way for years or decades. I've reached for a million different strategies, and evidently I'm not good at them because none of them work, right? Um, there is something in my compassion and courage, in a way, not that I am personally either one of those things, but when I sit with a client, that's the thing that I feel compassion for whatever state you're in.
Mhm.
And courageous just because, if not me, who? I I can imagine with you that you don't have to do it the same way again. So I might ask, and again, the question is there already. I might ask the old person how old they are. Well, that's such a rude question, right? But why do I ask that question? Because if somebody is 92 and somebody else is 22,
Mhm.
the time we have to address things is different.
Right.
It's just is by virtue of acknowledging what is, right? Or somebody has talked to me about their partner. Maybe they've emailed, I want to work with my partner because my partner is this. This has been happening for 15 years, blah, 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 blah. And my question will be, because it's right there, well, your marriage is over, right? Right? Because they already told me, right? They already told me.
Hmm.
And so my question is marking content that is already there for the most part.
So I'm curious if it's questions that the client is not able to ask himself. Yeah, more.
I think that's a huge part of it, I think, and I know I've talked about this in other conversations, but I think this idea of acknowledging what is very, very hard.
Mhm.
It's very, very hard. It's like we want to do anything but,
Right. Yeah.
and we will pay people to help us not. But of course, we also want to, because when I am imagine for myself acknowledging what is about whatever it is, there's something restful in imagining that I have the ability and the capacity and the wherewithal to kind of face what I need to face so I can make choices that are informed by what I see and not what I fear.
Mm. It's a lot what you're saying. You always surprise me. Sometimes I ask questions and I'm like, I heard Susie in the class, I think what direction she will go, and then you surprise me in such other ways, which is wonderful. Um, I want to go back for a second. If I ask a person who is 65 now, how old are you? Is it a little bit like telling him, you are 65 now? Is,
Yeah,
yeah.
yes, and it's a beautiful thing, right? It's like, wow, I am 60 I am 65. And oddly, it is sometimes that little question, and I don't want people to take it and now go ask everybody how old they are. I learned only one thing from Susie, ask people. But it can be almost a magical question because sometimes when people say it, I am 52, I am 65, whatever old, however old they are, there's like a settling in. And almost like sometimes it's really like, "Wow, I made it." Like, I made it. And sometimes it orients us in interesting directions because, oh, my mom died, when she was 52, and now I am 65. I have been on the planet, right? 5 and, I can't do the math. I have been on the planet 13 years more than she was. I have walked alone in a way,
Mhm.
right? So people, from that funny question, people sometimes have great realizations and also great, can also answer, I've been doing this for decades or my time is short. I got to get it right this time. Um, so evocative, the key in the door in that sense.
So, as much as I would love you to give me a prescription for good questions, and I would love if you can, w- what can we like give a good tip for? Everybody's different. Every facilitator is different. How can he gather the right question between him and the client?
So the way that she can gather is to sit back and listen, like really listen. And the three styles of listening, right? Listening to speak is once like, I'm just going to let you just talk because really I want to take my turn.
Mhm.
And then I'm not listening to you. Second, very popular in constellations is I'm listening for the thing that I can set up. And I've gone right into my head and, I have this funny play of on words or whatever it is. So that's not really listening either, right?
Right.
If we sit back and we listen, people actually tell us more than they mean to in general,
Mm.
right? And if we listen to learn versus listen to compete or listen to apply our memorized strategy, if we really listen to learn, like really curiosity forward rather than competition forward or showing off forward, right? Um, then we hear things that we then pick up,
Mhm.
like, if you're sewing or knitting or something, like threads that we pick up because they have told us. They have told us. So in constellation, there's this interesting quality to constellation that when so we have 1,000 stories, all of us. Sometimes we tell them to entertain people. Sometimes we tell them to deflect attention. As a facilitator, I don't care.
Mhm.
You can tell me to entertain me. You can tell me to deflect attention. I don't have any judgment. That's your right. But I take seriously that you are choosing for deeper reasons too, right? And the deeper reasons are shown in the sense that you don't tell me every story that ever happened in your family. You tell me the story wherein your mother presented with a kind of fragility that I suspect or I am curious whether it still impacts you now.
Mm.
If her fragility in the story you told me that you thought was funny, and maybe even was funny, if the deeper story you were telling me was about your mother's fragility and how you felt that actually you have to compensate for it somehow, right? So, really listening without judging the quality of information and letting, the popular question, does this resonate? Does it resonate now? Did it resonate when he walked in? To pay attention to that question in us. Does it resonate with me somehow? Does that story that they told me about that great uncle or that time when, does that land in me in a way that it sparks
Mhm.
my deep curiosity, where I imagine, if I press into that a little bit with you, will a space open for us?
Yeah. I really like you said 3 ways of listening, and I really like between 2 and 3 because I feel many of us facilitators are listening in order to catch something. Like, when is it? Phew. And I really like this. No, okay, no, I'm gonna just sit back. I'm not a fisherman, but let it it's almost like let it be catched in a way because we do look for something.
We do look for something, but what we're looking for is, I mean, it's kind of going back to what you're saying. We're looking for where the portal or the door seems to open so that we can travel further versus looking for the cool thing that may be clever, but that doesn't actually have movement in it,
Oh, yeah, 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 I love it. So we're
right?
looking for a movement.
Yes, yes. Because I think sometimes when Hellinger said in the beginning, when Bert Hellinger said in the beginning, everything was in the beginning, when he said early on that systems want to grow, that every facilitator needs to have this understanding that a system wants to grow. That is the energy, growth. So you plant seeds in shitty ground and still something sprouts. How crazy is that? Or I always laugh that my plants survive me not watering them. They really want to grow.
You're lucky.
But right, so there is this, like, whoosh movement in every kind of system, biological system, right? The human system. So, in looking for the movement, we're looking for that. Maybe it's a trickle, or maybe it's a cascade. Either one is fine, and we want to be in accord with it, not invent it.
Mm.
Not invent it. So I loved in a recent class when somebody said, "Oh, so could we bring," and they had a particular religious figure, right? "Can we bring this figure in?" And I said I said, "Only if it comes from your client,
Mm. Yeah,
because that system wants to grow and relies on certain kinds of resources, has a certain kind of faith, and if you bring in whomever to a system where that figure is not appropriate, you are self-oriented, self-centered, bestowing great light onto that your client actually doesn't see or want or recognize. So
right.
we're like surfing. Like, where is the movement? Let me get on my surfboard
Yeah.
and ride the wave with you.
Mm. Yeah. I'm trying to it's very deep. It's a lot about the facilitator stance, and I'm imagining a client comes into my office and like this.
Uh-huh.
And I'm trying to translate what we just talked about. So my question that I'm thinking is, why is he looking like that? And help me out. What would be like, take
So
me
I would
further.
okay, okay. Well, or be more practical, right? Be less poetic, be more practical. Okay. I'll try. I'll try. So a person comes in like this. First of all, I try to stay away from immediate interpretation, right? And, like the therapist might say they're depressed, and the constellator may say they're looking at a dead person,
Yeah.
right? That's my always my favorite one. Um, so I would say I don't hold to either's one. I have no idea. And that's a good start. I have no idea. That's an interesting posture. I have no idea what it means, right? So I actually might ask, it sounds like an odd thing. I might ask, is your back comfortable in that way?
Mm.
Is that how your back is comfortable? So imagine I'm not going to give all five because I won't, I don't really have five in my head, but imagine there's like one of five answers. One is like, what are you talking about? Which is an opening for you immediately, right? I'm going to stand with you and tell you what I'm talking about, right? Two is I'm terribly depressed and I just can't get myself to lift my okay. So there opportunity to join somehow, right? The third is actually I have a back condition.
Mm. Surprise. Yeah.
Surprise. And yes, I am comfortable like this, right? Um, so and then there are 2 others which I can't think of. But, to kind of lead with something open versus your interpretation, right? Let me be curious with this person, not against this person.
Wonderful. I like it.
I'll
Because
give you one more.
yes, please.
My dad also walked like this.
That's beautiful.
I hate this about myself, and my father also right?
That's a present to the facilitator,
That's the
just to
present to the
catch. Yeah,
facilitator.
beautiful. But I do know that there's questions that are, I think it's Susie's questions, like who sits with you in the kitchen table when you were young,
Yeah.
or tell me one word about your mother. It's like,
Those are my little cheats. So, thank you for that. I actually really appreciate it because I forget my own like, what I have developed over time in a way because it's just me. It's like if people can sing, they can sing, and they don't know how they can sing. I'm not one of those people. But anyway, so I introduced the kitchen table, the use of the word, or the phrase, because I wanted people to, like, have the opportunity to actually move back into that space, right? And really establish quickly that I'm not so interested in the personality of anybody. That's just your defense, your interpretation, and also I see the client, I probably know something about the personality. I'm interested in the structure. What were you born into? Who was at your kitchen table? Who was not there? Who was supposed to be there? And perhaps who was there who was not supposed to be there?
hmm,
These are questions that are like, oh, yeah, wow. Well, there was a child before me who was aborted,
hmm,
right? Which is different than asking somebody if there are any aborted children. It's like, let's the person access that, right? Or there, my father was not there, but my stepfather was there. And that lets the client access not only that the terrible stepfather was there, but that my father was not there, right? So it's evocative in the sense that it allows people actually to visit that place and recall versus judge from here, like recall,
Mm.
right? Um, Sometimes I ask about the parents' kitchen table
Mm.
versus tell me something about your parents because I want to understand something of what they bring forward, right? And understand it in a non-interpretive way. Meaning again, I don't even believe necessarily or entirely that grandmother was a total witch and my mother hated her. Like that for me is a partial truth. And it's a truth that kind of keeps us captured in it because then, if that's the story you're telling me, then perhaps you have to compensate for the bad mother, blah, blah, blah. So I want to know about the structures.
Yeah.
The question of related to the early times, the question of one word, give me one word for your mom, one word for your dad, sometimes one word for your relationship. Um, what I'm doing there, first of all, people always say I don't have only one word, which is fine. But I'm trying to actually like the impact. I know it's not the whole thing. I just want the impact. And people access the impact there, right? Weak.
Yeah.
Somebody recently, actually twice, have described a parent, one or the other parent, as playful.
Mm.
So I'm thinking, wow, playful. That's a really sweet word. And then I'm thinking, wait, I don't know, maybe to have a playful parent is problematic,
Mm.
right? Or people say a friend, right? That's the word, friend. And I'm like, oh, okay. So in the order of things, friends are like this versus like this, right?
Yeah.
I learn a lot more than going into the long, long story where then I have to extrapolate the word.
Yeah. I, I'm using it and I love it because it's, as you said, very quickly you reveal things. I'm curious at what you said before about somebody that is there but not supposed to be there. What did you mean?
So often in so-called blended families that are not really blended, that's what that's one description, particularly around even like particularly around siblings because the order's screwed up, right? I'm first in this family, but third in this family. Or, he's first in that family and he comes here and he's the little one. So the order gets screwed up. And we don't really understand why, because we don't talk about it in terms of order. We talk about it in terms of, stupid Billy or
Mm.
silly Nancy or however we talk about it. So that's one way that I mean it. The other way that I mean it is the more kind of mysterious, energetic, are we living with, well, this is the reverse actually, but are we living with ghosts of former loves for our parents, for instance? Right? So we have a dad, and dad is great. But there's also the ghost of mom's former lover
Mm.
who was not allowed because he was whatever, Muslim or he fell off the boat or whatever it is, right? But so there is my father and mother, and then there is a ghost,
Mm.
right? And then there is a ghost. I think the early death of a grandparent often appear at the tables. So we have a dad whose mom died when he was 3. Well, that mother is at the kitchen table as well. right? Who he longs for, who he longs for. In adoptive families, maybe the whole kitchen table is there and not supposed to be there, right? Because my experience as an adopted child, before I can be adoptive, I had to have lost everybody. And so I sit in a family to which I don't intrinsically belong, and they're all there,
Mhm.
but all of these people are missing, right? Whatever the
Right.
circumstances don't matter.
Yeah. Beautiful. It's so interesting. I'm thinking, I mean, lately I told you about someone I asked that said, I have three imaginary friends in my kitchen table, and it's okay, wow, that is interesting. And you took me right back to Family Constellation because I went to other places, and you said, maybe it's the voice of three people from the back. And it was beautiful. I really, really liked that.
Because and can I just say one thing
Yeah.
about, the questions we're asking in a way we're not asking overtly because most people will look at you like you're crazy, but, you know, so much of our lives we learn in those first 9 months inside the womb, inside this other person. So when somebody tells me they never heard about this, that, or the other, actually, I know, in my own case, I don't remember ever hearing about my brother when I was alive, when I was born, right? But I know I heard about him in the womb,
Mm,
and I know, of course, I carry his cells. I'm also aware that he was my predecessor in that shelter. But I also heard about him. I heard my mother and father fight about him. Can I prove it to you? No. Do I have to? No. I know it to be true. So, what did we learn in the womb? And some of these questions kind of begin to kind of open that place where we learn so much, so fast, so deeply. Because if our navigation is based on survival, right? We want to belong because we want to survive.
mhm.
Well, it happens there first. It happens there first.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Do you think there is like timing for que like questions, evocative questions?
I think you want to try to connect with, but not merge with. So just be really clear. Connect with, but not merge with. The person's nervous system.
Mm,
Be really respectful of their defenses. Like I'm super respectful of people's defenses. Sometimes I hate them, hate the defenses
yeah.
because the person's mean to me or something, but I'm respectful of them. Um, and then the questions are attuned to the space that you and the client hold. So I'm not going to put it on the client even. I'm not even going to say the questions and the timing is attuned to you. For me, it is more like it is attuned to the space that you and I establish,
Mm,
right? And I think there are certain people I've worked with where maybe I never get to certain questions.
mm,
Like it never feels right. Or it feels right because I have this idea in my head and I think I'm so cool. And then I realize, like, oh, no, it's actually not right. Because I think there's a lot for facilitators that is none of our business.
mm. I want to say it sounds simple, but it's really not.
It's not.
It's really take practice to be in this position, I feel.
I no, I think you're right because I think it's an interesting kind of calibration of the ego in a way, right? Where I always say, where I am certain I am in trouble. That doesn't mean I'm confused, right? For me, the opposite of certainty is not confusion, right? So I have a lot of C words in my vocabulary for some reason. I want to feel into my confidence, be at ease with my confidence. And if the needle moves to certainty, I know that's a problem.
Mm.
Now I'm not looking at you, I'm only looking at me. By the same token, if it moves to insecurity, that's a problem too, because I'm also looking at me and not at you, right?
Yeah.
So I think you're right. I think one more C word, it is like kind of a constant calibration. Like you don't attune to your client once, you attune to your client all the way through the work together, all the way through your accompaniment. It's like if I were a guide in a crazy landscape,
Mm.
right? And you and I were walking together. I wouldn't run way out ahead of you and leave you. But on the other hand, I also wouldn't stop and let you leave me.
Mhm.
I would try to do this, right? And so that's constant through the journey.
Yeah.
That's constant through the journey. And when you say to me, you know what? We've hiked enough. I've had enough. I've taken something. Then as a facilitator, I can't say, come on, let's go a little further.
Yeah.
I have to get over myself and and stay with my confidence, not my certainty, and say, "Okay,
Yeah.
beautiful."
Yeah. Yeah. I know. Yeah. It's yeah. I, when I see this for someone, I'm like, okay, I think.
Okay.
Um.
Even if we don't understand, right? Like, even if we
Right.
don't exactly understand what they took, right? I've had people say to me that that constellation was so amazing about it. Like, I don't really even know what happened. So I'm just,
Hmm. Yeah.
you are the guide, always.
Wow. It's it's so beautiful. Um. I have another question that it's around questions, but it's more like in life. As a mother, you know this when the child comes home from school and then you ask him how was your day and he said fine or great or fun and that's it. So this talk i I want to find with you a good question for our children coming back from school.
So I'm going to go back to you because you just asked this question that I think is really appropriate here. So, first of all, the idea of being the guide and all of that stuff, in a way, your children are the guides. Like, and it's very much a similar situation because I know more about constellations than my clients. I don't know more about life, and I certainly don't know more about their systems. I know more about a lens that they have come to me to ask about. So it's a little similar with your kids. Like your kids know more about the fields that they spend the day in than you do, but you know more in general than they do. You are a reservoir of a knowledge of the kind of wisdom and knowledge that comes with time, not with intelligence. It comes with time, right? So for me, going back to what you said to me, I would say I would never ask the question when they come home from school. Talk about timing.
Mm.
I would let them, because transitions are very difficult for most of us. They're still difficult for me. So we have to get there and then they acclimate to that rhythm, to that conscience. The school has a totally different conscience than your house, your home, right? And then they have to transition back into this other conscience, right? So for me, those questions would come once they have really settled into this other conscience.
Mm.
And they would probably begin with, My day sucked. How was yours? Right? Um,
Uh,
right? Because what you're doing in a way is, similar. You're establishing your ground together. I am not like, I don't have like a microscope and I want to see how everything is, right? Yes,
yeah.
exactly. Right, right, right. So the timing I think is important there. Let the transition take. And then at a moment when there is relaxation, you can ask your question, but not in an oppositional way, not like you are other, but like we are both reporting,
Mhm.
right?
I'm gonna try it.
Try it.
And
Try
I
it.
love this talk because I think it's so common these days.
Oh, I do
I
too.
hear it from so many mothers how you ask the question and the door is pa-chung, closed. So I appreciate this
So you started
insight.
out, Edis, by saying that evocative questions for you are like keys that open the door,
Yeah,
right? So every client comes to us with both the desire to and a desire not to.
right.
Every client. And our kids are like that too,
Mm,
right? I have an adult son, and I would tell you, I would report very similar, very similar. Maybe not closing the door to his room, but closing the door to his life to some extent. When I bear down on him, right?
Oh, this is so funny. Y- I mean, yeah, I'm really thankful, grateful for you for changing my stance around questions. Even for myself as a person in life, questions rather than where can I open the door?
Mhm.
I really, really appreciate it. Susie, we came to the
Wrapping up.
wrapping up. We came to the end of the conversation. It was super interesting. I do want to emphasize about your questions that I think are very helpful, like who sat with you in the kitchen table when you were young, one word about mother, father, relationship, a country. I think it's super helpful. And
And how old are you? So
older,
I'm gonna
yeah.
throw that in at the end of our talk. I think people miss it.
Mhm.
And I think it's for clients, representatives. I think it's when you are talking to somebody. How old are you? Not like literally how old are you? So I'm saying it in a different way now. So yes, the 65-year-old, the 97-year-old, the 22-year-old, absolutely. But when people are reporting in a constellation, a representative, a client, the question of rather than what are you feeling, which is a question I hate because then people have to think about what they are feeling and then make up something to be compliant. How old are you?
Right.
People get, and they're saying something like angry and vicious, and then they tell you they're 3.
Mm. Yeah.
Whoa, talk about a door opening, right? And even somebody is sitting beside you and they have the great anxiety, so they're talking really fast and they're telling you a million things, and you can hardly you can actually put your hand on their knee or on their virtual knee, and you can say, "Hey, it is. I'm a slow listener.
Mm.
I'm a slow listener. When you're telling me this story, do you know how old you are as you tell me?" And people are very good. People will say, "Oh, yeah, I'm 11 years old." And then that door is open. Right. So I want to add that.
Yes, it's beautiful. And I know you have more. I know you have more, but
Yep.
we leave it for more.
Yep. Yep.
Thank you so much, Susie, for your
Thank
time.
you.
And I'm looking forward to for the next conversation. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. It is. This is, I said to you before, this is a great contribution to the community, and I really honor that and like to participate.
Thank you so much, Susie.